offshore fishing trip at Gainesville Offshore Fishing Club panel presentation. That's just a little dig at our inshore membership. We try to bring those guys along. Some of them are doing pretty well, but we'll keep working with them. We're going to cover a lot of ground tonight. So one of the things we did was to hand out the numbers, because some of those numbers are also going to be here in the slides, and you don't have to worry about copying them down. You've already got copies. We're going to cover a lot of ground, so we won't be able to slow down too much and get everything in. But if you're interested in certain aspects of the program, certainly let us know, let Jay know or something, and we'll come back and we'll do another program where we go a little deeper instead of really broad. We're covering more stuff tonight in this one program than anybody would do in any one fishing trip, but it's an idea of showing you the spectrum of things and techniques and tackle and places to go so that you'd be able to work that into what your own plans were and what you were going to try to do. So here we are. We're offshore. It's early. It's pretty flat. You can see it's nice and flat there. Not dead calm. You don't want to like blast. We got a school of frigate birds, and those guys just would not bunch up, so I could get about all 20 or 30 of them in the same picture, but I did get a few of them here. They were flying over a bait school, which was being cut up by kings, and that's what you want to see if you're going out after kings, is something just like that. Okay, as it says in the ad, priceless. Would that it were so. An offshore fishing trip has a price. It's got a cost. And I just listed a few of the things here that add up to that. Most of us are going to tow about 65 miles one way, so 130 miles. You're going to pull your boat over there to the Gulf. You're going to run your boat out. You may want to do some trolling. Your total trip on the water may be 60 to 100 miles. That's not counting Brian Keel, who will be well up into the thousands probably. You're going to buy some frozen bait, probably. You're going to get some ice. You're going to get some chum. You're going to do some lures, hooks, and fingers. Hopefully nobody in the crew. You're going to get up at 4 and you're going to get back at 8. An offshore trip is a pretty good size investment in time and money, energy. I remember when I joined the club, it was about 25 years ago. I was 13. I used to go to meetings, and the grouper diggers would talk about 100-pound days. Back then, they'd go out and they'd try to get 100 pounds of grouper, and a lot of them would sell them, and they'd use that money to pay for their offshore boat and their equipment. Well, that's certainly not going to happen today. Things have changed. It would be pretty unusual for any of us to catch 100 pounds, and we wouldn't be able to legally keep it unless we had several Goliath group or something to make that up. And we certainly wouldn't sell it. Today we're much more interested in sustainable fisheries. We want to see that thing properly managed so that our children and our grandchildren can have the same great opportunities to fish that we have. Our technology has gotten good, and while it might seem hard if you're just starting out offshore fishing and grouper fishing, say, man, how do you catch these fish? I'm going all over here and I'm not catching many. But in reality, once you start working at it, you come to some meeting like this and you get started, most of us are too good at it. We catch a lot more than the fishery can sustain. So one of the things we're going to talk about tonight as we go along is the fact that as you develop your good spots to fish, for grouper particularly, you don't take them all. You don't take everything that there is at that spot. If you do, the grouper will disappear and they won't be there anymore. You have to be a manager of your own fishing spots and put them back. You take a couple, you go to the next spot, you take a couple, and you make sure that you leave plenty in there. Other people are probably going to be fishing it too, and so you're going to have to be careful. Now, before I go on, I want to just mention that there are a couple of guys here who remember those old days. We've got 2 founding members of the Gainesville Offshore Fishing Club here tonight. Dick Bowles back there, and Harold Johnson. Yeah, you're not that old. Put your hand up in the air. Yeah, there they are. That's pretty good stuff. Most of the rest of us can lie a little bit, but those guys are terrific. Once they get going, there's no stopping. Okay, so even if many fish will be released, we still want to have some fun catching them. We're going to go out there and spend this time and money. So we want some trophies, we want some keepers, we want to have something to show for it. So tonight we're going to tell you how best to do this. And the first thing we're going to take a general look at is careful planning that's necessary. You want to look at a number of factors, and these are fairly obvious. The weather. You want to have a good idea of what your targeted species are going to be. You also want to be ready for likely species. If you're going out after grouper and you come across a big school of kings, like we were looking at earlier with the frigate birds, you might want to be ready to get a trophy king. Hey, 45-pound king's kind of fun. Even a 30-pound king's kind of fun. A 20-pound king's a lot of fun. So there might be some likely species that you want to be ready for too. The season is going to be important. We're going to see that different fish are available at different seasons, different places. The captain and the crew are important. The tides are important. The ports you're going out of. You're going to plan all these things to make sure that you're ready for this big investment in time and money so you can get the absolute most out of it. And I'm going to talk about a couple of these things in a little bit more detail here, just in general. First of all, the weather. The wind is the most important factor for most of us. More offshore fishing trips are either made wonderful or made horrible by the amount of wind that's blowing. And if the weather forecast turns out to be off, it's going to be necessary sometimes to completely change your plans. With an inshore trip, depending upon the direction of the wind, you might be able to duck behind an island or run up a creek. 20 miles out there, that's just not possible. There ain't no place to hide. So you want to make as sure as possible what the wind is going to be, the direction, the speed, the duration, because that's really going to be critical to the kind of fishing you're going to be able to do and how long you're going to be able to stay out there and how safe you're going to be. We've got some good weather sites, websites on our GOFC website, so if you're not familiar with too many of those, that's a good place to look. And the more experience you have with the weather and the forecast, the better you'll be at being able to handle this and make good predictions. Thunderstorms can also be a problem. Basically what we worry about mostly is lightning. Again, you're out there, there's no really place to get out of it. You don't want to be anywhere near where there's lightning. What's this whole thing? If you can hear it, fear it. If you can see it, flee it. Don't get near lightning. Don't even, if the thunderstorm is 2 miles away, that's too close. You got to stay away from that stuff because lightning is not good for boats and other living things. Temperature is important, the air temperature and the water temperature, because again, that's going to determine what kind of fish are going to be biting, where they're going to be, up high, down low, in close, far out. And another thing that we were going to put on here and we didn't make it is fog. Fog, if you've never been in fog, is very, very disorienting. You do not want to run in fog. You've got GPS, you've got all these great electronics. Some of you guys might even have radar. It doesn't matter. Fog really, really can mess you up. It's just not worth going into. For one thing, it deadens noise. So you can't hear boats coming up on you at 50 miles an hour until it's pretty late to avoid it. It's dangerous to run in fog because there are other guys out there that just don't have good sense. So you have to really, really watch out for fog. That's one of the few things that will make you just turn around and come right back in. That just won't mess with it. And typically it's pretty flat when there's fog out there. It's not windy, but it's not a good, safe thing to do. Okay, the captain and the crew. There's Captain Ahab over there. He was a pretty good captain. When you go out, you want to have several people on your boat, I think, for a number of reasons. First of all, with several people, you're going to have a lot more experience, and the more experience you have, the more you're going to be able to get out of your trip. Different people are going to know different kinds of things to try, different places to go, different techniques, and I think more people make it a safer trip. Even a relatively small offshore boat, 19, 20 feet, 2 people is the absolute minimum. You've got to have one guy working the boat and one guy working the poles if you're going to do